Hello everyone, and here we are on PTR once again, and we are testing Mugsy. And this being PTR, and everything you see here might just as well change. But let's give a first reaction, a first look of what this fight is. This fight sadly seems very far from what reality will be like, and it seems very far-fetched in both terms of tuning and design, as the boss does seem a bit too complex and a bit too hard, but I am expecting quite a rework on this boss, but yeah, let's just break it down piece by piece. So when we start the fight, this being an ogre with two heads, you can see how in the room you have a red area and a blue area, and basically when majority of the raid, this being heroic of course, is on one side, it procs the side or the head that does that phase. So when we are on this side of the room, we're gonna proc every ability from a specific head or a phase from a specific head. If we were all to move towards that side of the room, now the other head begins another phase. Basically, when we enter any phase, the boss does ramp damage, does quite a bit of raid damage, and gives us a dot. Or rather, it gives itself a dot for like 2 minutes, meaning we don't want to enter that phase again for quite a bit. Now, what you'll see here, these circles, they're a bit complex, but they're like a prison. So they need to be soaked by quite a few people. We decided to put teams of 5s in those soaks. And as we have the soaks here, these little jails will appear and people can't get out. Now once you kill this ad inside, they knock you, meaning you can break the walls and then get out, just like Echo of Neltharion. The ad does have a frontal and the frontal does rotate, so you have to keep dodging that. But outside of that, this ad is pretty simple. It will sometimes cast a cast that you do need to interrupt, but that's pretty much it for this ad. As for the next mechanic, on top of this, and the reason why we have people outside, is because they want to bait these Frost Shatter boots. Now, as we're seeing the Frost Shatter boots appear here, let's just give a quick shout out to our tanks and explain what happens on the tank mechanic. The tank mechanic will be this little big damage on the tank, molten gold knuckles, and it also knocks them. So it's a big hit and knocks them away. And now they have a dot, and the only way to remove that debuff is to sprint around the room. We decided to do this pattern, and as he sprints, he's gonna poop these gold pools. If you don't move, you're gonna get stunned for 30 seconds, I believe, but basically you will sprint to get rid of your stacks of that debuff. Now, as for the boots, what we're gonna have here is players are gonna have this arrow indicating a spear is gonna be thrown at them. That spear does little damage and it will kill you unless you make it, for example, be stopped by a wall from the cages that we have here. There are other mechanics from that side specifically that could stop this damage, but for now, let's just focus on the gowls. And here you can see, as we're finishing the ads do knock players, and the players getting knocked break the wall. Because this is a cage in a weird shape, let's say it's a square, if we all stack here and the ad dies, it knocks you through the square, and then every other wall stays intact, meaning we can use those walls to get rid of the spears. Now the boss does this frontal at a random player, sword disappears, and that's pretty much it. We prepare for another overlap, now let's see it on real time. The cages appear, players go inside, the ads will appear, we start killing the ads, and now we focus on those frontals, and then everyone with spear breaks line of sight behind the cages, and the boss is basically now doing a frontal, and after this we want to swap sides, because now the boss is at 100 energy and it does have quite a few stacks of Moxie. Basically, this is what makes you wanna be in a phase, or rather reset a phase, because the boss is ramping more and more and more damage. Once he reaches 100 energy, he just wipes the raid. So you do want to remove 10 stacks of Moxie by going to the other phase, which gives him like damage increase, and that way you remove that stack. As for the 100 energy, it seemed once you go to the other side, you reach that is energy. Now, if you do fail to take to proc the other phase, he will do Disguised Double-Minded Fury at 100 energy, and this will happen to your raid. Basically, everyone dies one shot. Now, as for the blue side of the room, there's not much I can tell you because we actually didn't manage to see much of this fight, or rather of this phase, but when you enter here, you once again take damage, and these two shocker ads appear. They do lightning, chain lightning, and you do need to be spread, so everyone needs to mass spread going into this phase, and then you need to zerg them to 80% HP. Once at 80%, they become dormant, and they take 100% increased damage, so this is your time frame to kill them. So as you can see here, if I press play, you will see how the ads get at 80%. They will now be dormant, meaning the chain lightning is no longer active, and they take a lot more damage, meaning we can actually kill them. Moving forward, these circles means mines are about to spawn. Now these mines, the unstable crawler mines, they will fixate random players. The gimmick is they actually don't take damage, and they can be destroyed by touching a wall of the other phase of the prisons. They can also be soaked by the player running into them, and when I say player running into them, it's just not the fixated player. It could be literally any player, even if not fixated. They can touch the bomb, and then that bomb explodes. Now that deals damage to the player that soaks the bomb, but also that makes the bomb spawn these small individual soaks. And you can see the small individual soaks here in just a second as we soaked, and now these individual soaks appear. If they're not soaked, this happens to your 8 frames. So you do need to soak that, or else you're gonna wipe. You can get away with probably one not being soaked, but that's just very, very dangerous. Now another thing that happens in this phase is a random ad is gonna spawn, and once it spawns, it fixates on a player, or it puts a big raid white circle. You can't immune this, sadly, and because 5 players are required to be inside of this before it just one-shots the entire raid. So you do need to soak that, and once you soak that, there will be fire left, as you can see here. And then this beam that you see, this Farak looking beam, what it does, it's targeted at, it's a tank mechanic, but it's targeted at a random player. The tank needs to intercept it to take the damage, but both him and the player will have a shell or a dot that once it expires, it basically destroys every single mine within 15 yards, meaning more individual soaks. All in all, this fight seems very cool in terms of concept, but it does seem a bit far-fetched when it comes to both tuning of numbers and actually overlaps mechanic tuning, and the way certain mechanics interact with each other. They have a lot of potential, but this just doesn't seem like a heroic boss. It actually seems like a pretty difficult mythic boss, and probably not even early mythic. So this boss definitely needs to get a rework, and hopefully I'll be able to show you another video next week once we get to test it again, and this time it will be on Mythic. But for now, that's pretty much all I have to say about Vexie, so I'm gonna dip out and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.